Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Late Night Racing for the final race of 2020. 6 more races to go in the championship, and tonight it is round 17 around the Sochi Autodrom, the Russian Grand Prix. Last time out at the Singapore Grand Prix, it was Droftas who avenged the previous race in Italy by beating Paulie Orange in the end. Droftas becoming the first man to win 4 races this season. A great second place for Paulie Orange and Andenge getting on the podium, and with there being no points whatsoever for championship leader Jonathan Cox, that means the gap has shrunk in the championship. It is now 32 points between Jonathan Cox and Paulie Orange, the AlphaTauri driver, on 222. Paulie Orange has 190. Alan drops down to third on 187 points. Andenge fourth, 183. And KRC is currently on 158 points, so still very close at the top of the order with 6 races to go. Who will be leading? Well, we know Jonathan Cox will be leading the championship at the end of the night. How close will it be in the championship at the end of the night? That is going to be a very interesting question indeed. My name is Luke Etheridge, and I will be guiding you through the action tonight, and let's see what Andenge can do on his hot lap around a very dark and dull, it must be said, Russian circuit. It's going to be forecast to be a dry race, but there might be some rain towards the end just to keep the drivers on their toes as Andenge heads towards turn 2, the first braking zone on the track. This very awkward corner that causes a lot of problems. Don't be surprised to see a lot of penalties around this circuit as it is now flat out around turn 3, heading towards the 90-degree right-hander at turn 4, where we saw the 2 Finnish drivers, Bottas and Raikkonen, come together in previous years. Towards the end of sector 1 now, Andenge currently in 9th place as he heads towards turn 5. Quick right-hand kink at turn 7, and then into 6, and then into turn 7. Then you've got this double left-hander at 8 and 9. Need to be careful. That sausage curb on the inside will launch you towards the wall if you hit it too hard. And then you've got the right-hander at turn 10, which brings you on to probably one of the best overtaking opportunities on the racetrack, as you are now flat out towards 11. DRS wide open on the Williams. Then you've got to be very careful as you go through turn 12 and then into the braking zone of turn 13 at the same time. Andenge a bit deep there, but he is currently in 5th position, coming now towards the end of the lap. A very fiddly end of the lap through 14, 15 and turn 16, getting the car straightened up as quickly as possible. Down to 7th place for the Williams. Final 2 right-hand corners here, turn 17 and then turn 18. Then a quick burst towards the finish line for Andenge. It's Droftas, who won last week, who takes pole position. And Andenge in 5th place. Our championship leader, Jonathan Cox, is starting in 6th position tonight. So a great lap for many people. Only 2 drivers getting disqualified. Energetic 6 looked to have a bit of a problem on his lap. He will be starting down in 13th place. So that is the order then in qualifying here at the Russian Grand Prix. Droftas on pole position. Great qualifying from him to secure what I believe is his first pole position of the season. Half a second ahead of the Haas pairing of Paulie Orange and Alan. Fatality in 4th, Andenge 5th. Jonathan Cox, our championship leader, is in 6th position. CRX Gods 7th, KRC, Farhad DVN and Mars rounding out the top 10. Immortal will have free choice of tyres, as will Vanderlei. Energetic 6, Noble and Ona Ole, both the last 2 drivers failing to set a varied lap time. This should be a very interesting race indeed around Russia, especially if we get some rain. I do find that a lot of the tracks that don't really provide interesting races in real life, like your Sochi Autodrom, like your Circuit Paul Ricard, always seem to bring the action when it comes to esports and F1 2020. So hopefully we'll have an absolutely cracking race for all you people that are watching at home. And you can see at the moment, it does look like beautiful sunshine, but we have it on good authority that there will be some rain at the end of this race. A 27-minute race, and of course 27 lap race I should say. If it's 27 minutes, then that's ridiculous how fast Formula 1 cars can go. Bit about the point system then here. So Droftas, he's currently 7th in the championship. He's now got an extra 4 points if he finishes this race. You get 4 points for pole position if you finish, and you get 1 point for the fastest lap if you finish. Doesn't matter if you're in the top 10 or outside the top 10. Other than that, it is a standard F1 scoring system. This should be, like I said, this should be a good race. We've got Jonathan Cox desperate to get a good performance in after last week. Involved in damage on lap 1, didn't really recover, had to make 3 pit stops, finished 40 seconds off the points in the end. What that does mean is that Haas have extended their lead in the Constructors' Championship with a double podium last time out. They're now 141 points ahead of AlphaTauri, 377 against 236. Williams found himself a further 10 points back. Red Bull on 204 and Renault rounding out the top 5 at the moment on 199 points. We'll see what tyres everyone has gone for. I'm not too surprised to see a couple of drivers like Ole and Art Vanderlei on the hard tyres. If it's due to rain at the end of the race, that could be a very interesting tactic indeed. And of course, Droftas and the rest of the top 10 having to start on the soft tyres. And this is a man, he might be a reserve driver. He has won 4 of the last 5 races. Paulie Orange, the only person to stop that run. And that is more than anyone else has won so far this season. It's been an absolutely fantastic performance in the races that I've seen. Total Pease and Jonathan Cox both have 3 wins at the moment. Paulie Orange, who's second in the championship, has 2. And it's amazing that Alan, Mr. Consistent, has got 7 podiums so far this season, has yet to stand on the top step. Could tonight be the night? Another driver whose Singapore Grand Prix didn't quite go to plan after a disappointing qualifying down in 15th. Did manage to recover though, thanks to keeping it clean as well, into 5th position. Just didn't quite have the pace in the final stint. So we'll see how it goes this time around. Can Alan get back onto the podium? Can he get back up to second in the championship? Can both the Hatters take advantage of Jonathan Cox starting down in 6th place? Or will our championship leader, ever consistent with those 8 podiums so far this season from the previous 15 late races, taste the champagne again? He's guaranteed to be leading the championship at the end of the night. No matter what happens, he will have at least a 6-point lead going into the winter break. We're going to have 3 weeks off, and then it is Japan, USA, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi and then Brazil, to finish the season, with Brazil being a double points marquee race. So make sure to keep your diaries free for that one. That is going to be some race to watch in February, the 6th of February for that one. But for now, let's see how this race gets underway. Who is going to take the victory here tonight? Will it be Droftas converting his first ever pole position into a 5th win? Penalties cost him in Italy. They nearly cost him last time out in Singapore. Will Paulie Orange get it? Will we see the forecast rain at the end of the race, or will it stay dry for all of these drivers? The lights are coming on now here at Russia. We've got 5 lights and we're underway, and it's a drive-through penalty for pole sitter, and that is why he's got such an amazing start. Paulie Orange with a nightmare, way too much wheel spin. Alan's going to be long ahead as they go around turn 1 here. You've got Fatality trying to get involved in the slipstream as well, so it's Droftas in the lead of this race. Alan second. Paulie Orange is down to 4th position as Fatality sweeps around the outside, and Denge trying to get involved with that. It's a very awkward turn 1. I'm not sure if there's been any contact or we've seen anyone drop down the field. Paulie Orange is now trying to sweep round the outside of turn 3, down the inside into turn 4 on lap 1. He gets that position back. Fatality's trying to hang on to it. Needs to be careful. You don't want to get too many warnings in these early stages. But a great start from Droftas, mainly because it was a drive-through penalty. Alan got everything absolutely nailed, so he's in the net lead of this race at the moment. Then Orange, Fatality, Jonathan Cox and Gods battling tooth and nail so far. If Gods is still alongside into 8, this could get very awkward indeed. There's been contact. That move was never going to work, but you knew with Jonathan Cox that he wasn't going to back off. So maybe Gods should have just thought about backing off there. Very difficult to overtake on the inside of turn 8, and he now drops down into 15th place. Ole has had an absolutely cracking start on those hard tyres. He's up into 9th position at the moment, battling with Farhad, who's reserving in the Mercedes. So a fantastic start from Ole, and if he holds on to that and it rains at just the right time, we could see a few surprises with the rain in this race, causing a few problems as you've now got Immortal and Noble battling. But it's Droftas into the pits then, so he will not lead this lap, and it's going to be very hard for him to take the victory. Alan in the lead, Paulie Orange is second, Fatality 3rd at this moment in time. Then it is Andenge, then Jonathan Cox at the moment in 5th position. Be interesting to see if there is any stewards' inquiries about what happened there. The drivers do of course have a chance to report any incidents to the stewards. Personally, I think the door was always going to close. It's a very difficult corner, but Gods did have a decent amount of car alongside, so I'm glad I'm just a commentator and not a steward, because I'm sort of sitting on the fence on that one at this moment in time. And Denge trying to close up then to the back of Fatality at this moment in time. Immortal getting a time penalty. We will see loads of those. We could see some disqualifications around this circuit. The nature of the track means it is very easy to run wide like Denge did there and just pick up track limit warnings and just pick up a few penalties as Fatality gets a bit of a twitch on at this moment in time. The two Hasses though, are they going to work together to try and break away from the field? Are we going to see any team orders between them? You've got to say, judging by the last few races, Paulie Owen just got the outright pace over Aylin. But the gap in the championship is only 3 points between them at this moment in time. So that's not to say we won't see anything interesting happening between them later on in the race. They probably can't afford to do any team orders at this moment in time, as I think Mars has had a bit of an issue in the racing point. He drops down into 12th place on those soft tyres. Bad start then for the CRX drivers, and an absolute nightmare for our pole sitter. Drive-through penalty on lap 1. He is now down into 15th place. He's won 4 races this season. He's going to take an absolute supreme, superhuman performance if he's going to win this one. As Mars now into the pit lane, he must have damage on his car, so I imagine he'll be going onto the hard tyres. We are on lap 3 out of 27, so DRS is enabled this time around, and the first time they'll be able to use it is on the straight out of turn 10, with a possibility of overtaking into that braking zone at turn 13. Battle between cars on the medium tyres then. You've got Immortal in 10th, dropping off the back of Noble, as you would expect. Those softs are looking good at this point in the race. In a few laps' time, they might not be looking so handy. You see the brake disc glowing on Energetic, really pushing hard. He got a pole position in Singapore using those soft tyres. A few spins though cost him any chance of a good result, and he could only finish in 9th place, picking up 2 points, and picking up 6 points in the end because of the pole position, but picking up 2 for the race, and I'm sure he'd have gone into that with the pace he was showing at points. He may well have stuck onto the podium, but it was not to be then for the Renault driver, and still Aylin can't shake this train behind him. You've got the first 5 cars separated by about 2 seconds at this moment in time. It's very close between all of them. KRC is not too far behind either. Mars has put the hard tyres on, as we now see CRX Gods working his way past Art Vanderlei, using the best of those soft tyres is Gods. He is currently in the championship in 15th on 23 points. He had a very good result last time out. Looked like he could have had a chance here again, him and Jonathan Cox. If you weren't with us for the start of the race, coming together, the championship leader in an incident. And there we go, Paulie Orange using the DRS into turn 2, gets the move done, gets himself a 3-second time penalty at the same time though. That is not ideal. We know Aylin is usually a driver that can keep it fairly clean, so this track might suit him to a T and might give him that chance of getting that first victory. And you can see he's still all over the back of his teammates, and with Fatality being the 3rd driver in the train, it's really awkward for him to have any chance of getting an overtake. Fatality was another driver who, it's fair to say, the race didn't go to plan for him in Singapore after qualifying in 2nd. Could only finish a lap down in 14th. He's currently 12th in the championship. Can he maybe sneak his way onto the podium in this race? It'd be a very handy podium for him, and could be his first of the season. And Denge and Jonathan Cox, the drivers behind him, and the 2 drivers ahead of him though, are no strangers to appearing on the rostrum so far this season. It all just seems to have calmed down ever so slightly. You've got KRC just running a bit off the back at the moment. This sort of sums his season up. He's very consistent, but probably not quite got that outright pace to take regular victories. Has managed to get 1 win so far and still has a chance of winning the championship. 5 races remaining after tonight, so 6 remaining including tonight. 210 points still up for grabs, so really you can say it's pretty much anyone's game at this moment. But with the form they've been showing, I'd be very surprised if it isn't Jonathan Cox or one of the Haas cars who ends up taking this championship victory. Lap 5 out of 27 then, and it's still a Haas 1-2 in these early stages. KRC just trying to hook onto the back of Jonathan Cox, because he knows if he gets DRS, that gives him an absolutely fantastic chance of sticking with these guys. It means you can save a bit of fuel, save a bit of ERS, because he's fairly low at the moment, as Drofdas made his way past Art Vanderlei. Zilla McLaren tries to work his way up the order. He is now into 13th place on those soft tyres, still showing Fantastic pace indeed. You can imagine him and Gords are going to work their way through the field, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of them end up in the points at the end of this race. And Denge is around. Didn't see, I was about to say he's very close to the back of Fatality. Didn't see if there was any contact. I don't think there would have been at that point. That could have caused the spin. I know this is one of the first times Denge has actually used no traction control, and I wonder if that's caught him out ever so slightly. The Williams driver dropping then into 8th place, and he might just be dropping 1 place further here. He's got Ole all over the back of him, but he's run out of ERS, and he's not confident enough on those hard tyres to send one down the inside there, as Mars is back into the pits again now for a set of soft tyres. He's nearly a lap down. After only 5 laps of this race, it has not been the start that he would have wanted. It's definitely been the start Paulie Orange would have wanted. Well, it wasn't the start he wanted because he got so much wheel spin, but he has recovered, and he's used that ERS to just get away from his teammate ever so slightly. It doesn't look like these boys are working together at this moment in time, and that could just leave Alan vulnerable if he does drop out of the DRS, although Fatality and Jonathan Cox aren't really putting all of these guys under pressure, and if anything, KRC is just starting to hook onto the back of these drivers, so that might be something to watch later on. We've got the battle over the final points position, still Immortal and Energetic 6 then for 10 and 11th place, and I am interested to see how these drivers at the front of the field play this race, especially the 2 Haas cars, if we get to a penalty situation at the end of the race, because these two, they're not in a situation in the championship where they can afford to pick one over the other. I'm sure I know what these two are like, and they will definitely, if it comes to that point, pick a number 1 and number 2. You've got to say Paulie Orange has got the pace, but he's picked up a penalty already. He may pick up a few more. We're going to have some rain, we believe, at the end of the race, and the clouds behind Paulie Orange looks slightly threatening at this moment in time. Clouds at the front though, still looking nice and sun-shining, as that is Alan just behind the leader at the moment. So Paulie Orange is pulling out that gap, and he might get DRS next time off the back of CRX Mars, a lapped car, which will help him indeed. Jonathan Cox is trying to stay in contact with Fatality, and I've got to be honest, at this moment in time, it just doesn't look like he's got the pace to do so. He had quite a healthy championship lead going into the last couple of races. It's been a while since he won the Canadian Grand Prix. It's when Jonathan Cox took a victory. He desperately would want a podium here to bump him up and stop any potential damage to his championship lead, because at the moment, you've got to say, one of the Haas cars is going to win this race. It's very early stages, 21 laps still remaining, and that ever-present threat of rain, but any penalties, any mistakes from Jonathan Cox, and if that lead shrinks a bit more, could get very, very pressuresome for the AlphaTauri driver, as we've had another spinner coming out of turn 2, and he's completely lost his front wing there, has Immortal. This is going to be an absolute nightmare to get that Mercedes round. He's going to drop down into 14th place after his pit stop, because Mars is such a long way down. Any chance of him scoring points pretty much going out the window, I imagine. It will be, well, I was about to say it will be a set of hard tyres, but this could be an inkling as to what the weather's going to do at what point of the race. If we see Immortal put on the mediums, it might rain about 2/3 of the way through the race. If we see him put on the hards, you can only really guarantee rain right at the end. So, one to watch out for, what tyres the Mercedes driver goes on for at the moment. Back towards the battle for second position then. And it's pretty clear that Alan at the moment does not have the pace of Paulie Orange. 1.8 seconds for gap at this point in the race, but he's doing enough to hold off Fatality, and these two still maintaining that 1 second gap above Jonathan Cox. 20 laps to go then, and with the pace he's showing at the moment, it might not matter how many penalties Paulie Orange gets, as he's got his nice little F1 esports helmet for participating in both the esports events. I managed to get that as well, but I don't think finishing just outside the top 2,000 is anything to brag about, as Denge uses his DRS beautifully there as he tries to recover his way up the field. He is now into 7th place. Noble's not got a bad exit though out of turn 2, just a bit stuck in the dirty air, can't get the overlap, and he drops then to 8th position. And here's the Immortal pit stop that I said we wanted to watch. What tyres are going on that? Soft tyres. Well. That suggests it might rain a bit earlier than we were expecting, so we'll keep an eye on what the clouds are doing, and this could really bring the race into some of those on the hard tyres on the medium tyres. Currently Ole, thanks to that fantastic start, the lead car on the alternate strategy in 9th place. He is 13 seconds off the lead. But if we do get some rain in about 10 laps time maybe, judging by Immortal going onto the soft tyres, looking what the sky looks like, I can't see it raining any earlier than that. Oh, Gods is out of the race. Will that be a safety car? Will that stir the order up completely? Gods out of the race. Huge shunt into the wall there. And there we go. We have definitely got some full course thing. Safety car. And Paulie Orange and Alan. Well, Paulie Orange has gone into the pits. Alan, I think, has had to carry on. And I think might have been better served going for the double stack there, because he will get caught by the safety car and could drop right to the bottom of the order. A disaster for the man third in the championship. Safety car is out for the accident for CRX Gods, as Immortal quite impressively gets a 3-second time penalty under the safety car for multiple warnings. So even though you've got to drive to a delta, he is pushing like crazy at the moment. And there we go. Ole stays out then. Energetic 6 also staying out. Paulie Orange is in 4 for Jonathan Cox. Jumps fatality in the pits. They've gone for the... Well, Cox, fatality and KRC have gone for the mediums. Orange has gone for the soft tyres. So another driver who thinks he can get these softs long enough to when the rain comes. And if he can, that could well be a move that wins him the race. And Alam, now that he's behind the AMG safety car, I wonder if he's thinking, I should have maybe just done the double stack and accepted it. I know the double stacks on F1 2020 are more reminiscent of what the Mercedes team did at Sakhir, but he will drop a long, long way down the order when he comes in for his pit stop, possibly behind Andenge and Noble and Droftas, and I can't see him dropping behind Immortal and Mars as Immortal now comes into the pits. He could well drop behind Droftas out of the points completely, and that will be a big struggle. I can see why Ole and Energetic 6 stayed out on the circuit. They're going to have a bit of a struggle though now with this strategy. He's basically given Orange and some of these other free pit stop. They are really going to struggle with their tyres on the restart. The harder tyres, always harder to warm up after a safety car, and after you've done 9, 10, 11 laps, however many laps they will have done on these tyres, you don't have the same tread movement, you can't get the same heat into the tyres. You see it in so many league races. If you stay on those harder tyres, when a safety car comes in, you are a sitting duck, especially with that long slipstream down towards turn 2, the first braking zone, not turn 1. That little flat out right-hander on the start finish straight is counted as a corner. And I think, Mars has put the intermediates on. That's brave. I mean, it has got very dull, but that is very brave, and I think I now know why Alan's staying out. Are we going to get rain a lot earlier than we expected? Mars going on those intermediates when it's not yet started raining. Remember Ferrari trying something similar in 2009 when they sent Kimi Raikkonen out on full wet tyres, and I think in 2018 at Toro Rosso. For 2019, was it? 2018 it was Toro Rosso sent Pierre Gasly out on a set of the full wet tyres when it was really only intermediate conditions. You just cook the tyres completely. So CRX Mars on those intermediates, so that's why you can see the flashing rain light now at the back of his car. Even though this track is bone dry, and even at these speeds, he is going to be struggling on them tyres. So I'm not sure I get the logic of this whatsoever. What it will do, though, is just delay when the safety car comes in. And those lights are now becoming very prominent on the safety car. And it is getting very dark indeed. And them floodlights that you can just see over to the left there could be very useful for these drivers. It's not officially a late night race, as all the races are at late night racing are set at either night time or in the evening time on the game, and that is why it is so dark and so overcast around this circuit. I think if it was this dark in a real Formula 1 Grand Prix around Sochi, they'd probably call the drivers in and say, yeah, that's it for today, because it is pitch black almost at this moment in time. And Alan deciding to stay out, deciding that he can stretch those soft tyres until the rain comes, which suggests, with also Mars going on the intermediates, that it isn't going to be too long. He's in the lead of this race with, on lap 10 out of 27, as Mars picks up a penalty, and it is Alan, Ole, Energetic 6, Paulie Orange, Jonathan Cox, Fatality, Art Vanderlei, KRC, DBN, and Andenge, your top 10. And yeah, on board with Mars then. Let's see how he does on the straights. He is short shifting, understandably, to save a bit of fuel. But I don't think he's actually gained any time on that lap to the leaders whatsoever. He's really going to struggle on those intermediates, and unless it starts pouring it down now, this gamble to try and get himself into the points is going to leave him getting lapped. You can just hear him on traction how hesitant he's having to be. These intermediates, they're kind of worse when they're like this because they're picking up more heat. We saw Lewis Hamilton at the Turkish Grand Prix do quite a decent job on almost slick intermediate tyres. When they're like this, they're just overheating themselves, and you've got absolutely no grip. The safety car will be out for another lap. Immortal has now caught up to the back of the pack, so after his spin earlier, he is now back in this race. Droftas, don't count him out now that there's been a safety car despite that drive-through penalty. Remember, he was half a second faster than everyone in qualifying. It was a fantastic lap, so much quicker than everyone else, and you do wonder if Droftas hadn't been able to be a full-time driver, could he have won the championship? Mathematically, he can still win the championship. He's only 104 points behind. But being a reserve driver, there's no guarantee he'll be at every race, and that is a big margin to try and make up in 6 races. Basically 4 wins, even though one of those is double points. He'd have to rely on winning that double points race, and probably a few of those others having some bad races to have any chance of taking this championship. And Alan will be hoping that those safety car lights maybe just stay on a bit longer, and he'll be hoping the sky starts letting some of this water that it's clearly holding in loose at the moment. We got told originally rain was forecast at the end of this race. This is not quite the end. It's not even halfway at this moment in time. So, oh, Mars is out of the session, and I think he's just retired it in the pits. Yes, he has. So Mars has retired in the pits. That gamble to go onto the intermediate tyres, I think he realised wasn't going to give him any points whatsoever. So we're down to 13 runners, some on fresh tyres, some on old tyres, all on slick tyres, with the rain coming any minute. And I think now we are going to see a sign off the race direction that the safety car is coming in this lap. The top 3 drivers have yet to pit. How long can those softs on the Haas of Alan last? Will this gamble, if it pays off, it could give him the win of this race. If it goes horrifically wrong, he could get a puncture and find himself out of the race, and that would be a big blow towards his championship chances and mean he might have to start taking a supporting role for his teammate Paulie Orange. He needs to go at just the right time here. Energetic 6 is leaving quite a big gap, but Alan can't really afford to go until the last moment because of the nature of this track. If you go any earlier than that, he's just going to give Ole an absolutely fantastic slipstream, and here we go. Alan has put the hammer down with 16 laps remaining. He's in the lead of this race. Ole following him, then Paulie Orange already alongside Energetic 6 and already ahead of Energetic 6. That was one of the most straightforward moves you'll ever see. KRC in the background, going past the Alpha Tauri of Art Vanderlei, as well as Energetic 6 tries to look back at Jonathan Cox round the outside. Goes round the outside of Paulie Orange shot. He's going to run wide and nearly go into Jonathan Cox. Farhad has now got himself ahead of Art Vanderlei. Those on the older tyres are really struggling in these early stages. Here comes the championship leader down the inside. He takes 4th position then from Energetic 6, but you can just see he's already lost 1.5 seconds to Paulie Orange, who's going to be all over the back of Ole, and then all over the back of Alan, who got the best restart he possibly could, as did Ole. Energetic 6 just a bit asleep in the background, wasn't able to really gain anything, as there we go, a mistake from the Ferrari, and that is Paulie Orange up into 2nd position as the rain is starting to fall then around the Sochi Autodrome. We are starting to get some rain. Droftas back into the points, the pole sitter after his drive-through penalty earlier, one of the biggest winners probably from that safety car. Farhad on the back of KRC, who's on the back of Fatality. Those on the mediums might just be ruining their choice now, as Ole is on the inside and Jonathan Cox is just going to drive straight around the outside of him. Fantastic move, but he's got so much more grip at this point of the race. These old hard tyres are going to cope even worse in the dry conditions than they did in the wet, obviously. And Engine Droftas get ahead of Fatality. I'm not sure he's picked up any damage. Noble is involved in all this. It is all kicking off at this moment in time, but it's not wet enough for any DRS, and they won't be able to use DRS until next time around, unless we do start seeing the rain fall a lot heavier. As there we go, a swap between the 2 Haasers for the lead. Paulie Orange now in the lead of this race. Immortal, there's a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. His teammate has come in the Mercedes as well, so we are going to see a double stack from them, and we are going to see intermediate tyres for Farhad. It sort of makes sense with the rain starting to fall, And it's going to be a bit of a long wait for Immortal, so it is going to be tough for them to get any points as Jonathan Cox down the inside of Alan now takes that second position, and he sets after Paulie Orange on those medium tyres, but without a penalty. How long can they go on these slick tyres until we get to the crossover point? I think it could be this lap or the next lap, just judging by the rain falling at the moment, as KRC down the inside of Energetic 6 and Denge and Droftas trying to get involved in all this battling as well. Fantastic. 4 cars separated by about tenths of a second, if that. As he went through turn 8 and 9, and Denge gets his way up into 6. Droftas is going to just sweep around the outside of Energetic 6. And he's now going to take that 7th position as Immortal has also gone onto the intermediate tyres. So will be one to watch what sort of lap times those drivers can set. Here's the leader of the race then, with 14 and a bit laps to go. It is really the one with it all to lose at the moment. Some of those further down can maybe afford to go for a gamble, like the 2 Mercedes, like the Toro Rosso Alpha Tauri. We're all the way through the season, and I finally called them Toro Rosso of Art Vanderlei in 11th position at the moment, and no one coming into the pits, but DRS has been disabled. So if you're towards the back, Mr. Vanderlei, it might have been worth you just nipping into the pits then. DRS has been disabled, and now we'll see what sort of times these 2 Mercedes drivers can set on their intermediate tyres. If they start gaining, this is going to be very interesting indeed, as Denge around the outside of KRC without any DRS gets that position done. Noble late on the brakes as he's trying to go down the outside of Fatality, has to stay in 10th place for now. And you are going to want to be on those soft tyres. It does still look as though the 2 Mercedes are losing fairly sizable chunks of time, it must be said. So I don't think, despite DRS being disabled, I don't think it is really ready for the intermediate tyres yet. Most of the field, it looks like, have made the right choice. We'll have to see how they do this time around. Droftas, he's now behind KRC as he tries to work his way up the order. He's running low on ERS. That's why you've got the lights flashing on the back of his car, and it will soon be a rain light flashing, I think. Possibly maybe this lap or next lap, because now Farhad's times aren't really dropping too much compared to the rest of the field. So this lap could be the one to put on a set of the intermediate tyres. Droftas without, well, DRS came up as disabled, but it looks like drivers are still able to use it, which is very interesting indeed. Oh no, it would have been enabled because of course it was the 3rd lap after the safety car. I do apologise, I just assumed when I saw the safety car message it was for it being disabled for the DRS. I do apologise, as Noble's gone round the outside of Energetic 6, so he's now up into 8th place. Energetic down to 9th, and we are seeing the first of the drivers in the points go for the intermediate tyres and nearly get it wrong on the way into the pits. That is Noble coming in, and I'd say by the lap times it's still fine for the dry tyres as Denge, he's now up into 4th place, recovering after an early spin, starting to catch up to Aylan, and Droftas finally makes his way past KRC. He's up into 7th, and I've got to say, Ole on those hard tyres has done a pretty decent job, and I'm also surprised we haven't seen Aylan coming to the pit. Surely he's got to be the first driver to blink and put on the intermediate tyres, because he's on 14 lap old soft tyres. He will be threatening a puncture in the next few laps. Noble and Art Vanderlei both coming in, putting on the intermediate tyres. They will retain their 10th and 11th places, but still Farhad not really closing in too much on the leaders. In fact, it still looks like he is losing a bit of time, but he's also losing time to his teammates, so I'm not sure too much how to read that one. Looking at the back of Ole on the hard tyres, just look at the extra pace that McLaren has got. Can't get the move done around the outside, but will have the DRS. Will be able to get the switch back even before the DRS zone, and that is Droftas up into a straightforward 5th place. Out in the lead of this race though, he's just running away with it at the moment. Paulie Orange is 5.7 seconds clear of Jonathan Cox, who has also now picked up a penalty. He's absolutely flying at this moment in time, and will we see him come into the pits this time around? Oh! Jonathan Cox has had a spin! Championship leader has had a spin. He's broken his front wing. He's down into 7th place, so he's now surely got no choice but to come into the pits and put on a set of the intermediate tyres, as we do see. And Denge getting passed by Droftas, and there we go. There is Aylan into the pits. And still say maybe by the times it's a lap or two earlier than they would have initially liked to come in, but he's in, Ole is in, KRC and Jonathan Cox are in, and Denge gets his way back up into 2nd place ahead of Droftas, and Paulie Orange now has an 11.5 second lead. If he's timed this right, he can come onto the intermediates this lap around and should have a fairly straightforward final 11 laps towards the victory. as straightforward as a final 11 laps you can have in conditions like this, towards the victory anyway. And who's going to come out first on the intermediates? It is going to be Alan, lead car on that intermediate tyres. That is very good news for him. And judging by the fact that we're not seeing too many lose time, although it does look as though Noble is going to jump he's going to jump Fatality, he's going to jump Jonathan Cox, and he's going to jump Energetic 6 as well. So I think that is all the indication that you need that the track is ready for intermediates. He has gained 3 places with that move, and that's the second indication we need, and it definitely does now say DRS disabled. So these front 3 are going to have a very tricky rest of this lap, I feel. Holy Orange should be safe to Alan, the other 2 might not be, so we might be seeing a Haas 1-2 once again in this race. And Den's getting himself back up after a spin as Art Vanderlei is out of the race, and that is going to be another safety car, and that is exactly what the front 3 drivers needed to save them. Ever so slightly, Holy Orange drifting his way around turn 16 there. He comes into the pits for a set of the wet tyre, intermediate tyres at the best possible time for him, and Denj and Droftas as well will also be coming into the pits, and those who pitted the lap before, you're still in with a fantastic chance. This will close the field up, but it will mean that that fantastic lead Paulie Orange has got has been absolutely for nothing. He got it up to 13 seconds pretty much as he comes into the pit lane. Absolutely fantastic pace as Droftas gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The pole sitter, that's 2 penalties that are pretty much inexcusable. Really, you expect to pick up the odd track limit penalty. It's very annoying when you get yourself a jump start penalty and a speeding in the pit lane penalty, and it's going to be a front wing change as well. But again, I don't think this will cost him any positions out on track. Alan is coming around the final corner now, but obviously having to drive at a very reduced speed because of the safety car delta. So Droftas might just be, and actually no, he's going to be nowhere near safe. Alan is going to take second place. Ole might get himself up into a 3rd position here, and no, he is actually going to come out behind Andenj, and Droftas comes out in 5th place, but with that 5-second penalty hanging over him at the moment. KRC, Noble, Energetic 6, and then Jonathan Cox, our championship leader. He's having to see the people 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the championship, currently 1st, 2nd and 3rd, where he is in 9th place. We know he's a good driver, we know he can work his way up. Fatality, I was just about to say he's one of the drivers that's kept it clean. He's got himself a penalty, and that is the penalty situation at this moment in time. Droftas will serve his 5-second penalty in the pits if he has to make another pit stop. Immortal will serve his as well in the pits if he has to make another stop. As we see, I think it's Farhan now coming into the pits. Everyone else's time penalties will just be added on at the end of the race. So Noble looks as though he could be in a bit of trouble. 9 seconds at the moment. Only going to be 9 or 10 laps left after the safety car, so this could be very tricky for him indeed. So we've got our 2nd safety car of the race on lap 17, and it is now a Haas 1-2. Paulie Orange leading Alan. This team, surely nothing is stopping them getting the constructors. If they carry on this form, it might be very hard for Jonathan Cox and some of the other drivers to stop them in the Drivers' Championship as well. As I'm not sure if there's been was a bit of an overtake with a safety car there. I don't know if the glitch has been fixed at this moment in time. Immortal is going to be serving his speeding penalty, and that really does need to be fixed. If anyone from Codemasters is watching, you should not be able to get away with serving your penalties under the safety car. These are the biggest winners in this race. Look at that from Ole, starting on the hard tyres, getting that safety car, well, pitting actually just before the safety car. He's found himself in 4th place. He could have even been up to 3rd if it wasn't for the safety car. He's had a fantastic race at the moment as KRC is in. Have we seen the Red Bull driver pick up damage under the safety car? Has KRC damaged it? I mean, I don't see why else you would pit under the safety car after he's already had intermediate tyres, and there we go. He has damaged himself under the safety car. Thankfully for him, he won't drop right to the back, but he is down into 10th place. Not ideal whatsoever. 10 laps remaining. Safety car will be staying out for the rest of this lap, and I believe we will see it come in at the end of the next lap. I really don't want it to be staying out anymore. The rain pretty much staying at the same intensity, so I think it will be intermediate tyres towards the end, unless it really starts hammering it down in the next lap or two. I think it will be intermediate tyres right until the end of this race, so we shouldn't see any more scheduled pit stops for any of the drivers at the moment. This should just be straightforward for them to get towards the end of this race, as Noble overtaking Energetic 6 there. If that's Energetic 6, just letting him back past, hopefully. The tyre life of everyone, again, it's not really going to make a difference. These intermediate tyres can easily do half a race in normal conditions, so shouldn't really make any problem whatsoever. Now it all depends on the penalties. If you've kept it clean like Alan, you might be sitting fairly pretty at this moment in time. He didn't look to have the pace on the soft tyres earlier on. We'll see if he has gone for more of a wet setup, because if he can just stick within 3 seconds of his teammate, he will of course take his first victory of the season. He is looking pretty good though to pick up another podium indeed. Paulie Orange looking for another victory this season. Last one was at the Italian Grand Prix. This would make it 3 victories for him, and it'd really catch him up in the championships. Jonathan Cox, who, as it stands, the race finished right now with the fastest lap, is definitely going to go to Droftas at this moment in time. There is no doubt about it, unless he has an accident and he won't get the fastest lap points, but we're not going to see that time beaten. The race finished right now. The gap at the top of the championship would pretty much go down almost by 2/3. It's currently 32 points. It would drop to 11 points if we do see Paulie Orange take the victory and Jonathan Cox take 8th position. Still lots of action to happen, still loads to go on, and because Immortal is such a long way behind the pack, they've decided to keep the safety car out on track. As Ole's into the pits. Has Ole damaged his car under the safety car, I wonder? Or is he deciding this rain's getting a bit heavy, I might be thinking about a set of the wet tyres? He is indeed. Full wets going on owner Ole. It doesn't, in my opinion, it does not look wet enough, but he's decided that either the rain is going to get heavier and he's just going to cope behind the safety car on these wet tyres for a bit, or that he doesn't have that confidence. Well, this is a big risk from the Ferrari driver to pit from 4th position when you've not had a podium so far this season, to go onto the wet tyres, lose track position, drop yourself down into 11th. He's got to be very careful though at this moment in time, and I think you can see already the track's not ready for wet tyres, but if it does suddenly become ready for wet tyres in the next lap or two, Ole should win this race. He's going to be in a fantastic situation if this rain gets heavier on those wet tyres. At the moment, it's going to feel a bit like driving on ice, because again, they'll just overheat in these conditions and you will lose all grip. But he's back onto the back of the pack already. Bit of a surprising move in my opinion, but we will wait and see how it goes for him. With 8 laps to go when the safety car comes in, Immortal has now caught up to the back of the pack, so it will be coming in on this lap. And will we see anyone else decide it's worth the gamble to come in for the wet tyres, or will they all think they can hold on onto the intermediates? Because the tyres usually cope better in drier conditions than they do in wet. And what I mean by that is you'll have more pace on wet tyres in intermediate conditions than you would have on intermediate tyres in wet conditions. As soon as you hit the crossover point from intermediates to wets or dry to intermediates, usually the drier of the tyres seems to struggle more than the wetter of the tyres, if you sort of get my meaning by that. But anyway, safety car coming in this lap, 8 laps to go. Paulie Orange now controlling the pack around. Will we see anyone else dive into the pits this time around, or what on earth is happening? And Denger's dropped back here ever so slightly, and don't know whether that was to try and build some heat up in the tyres or what. Thankfully he should be able to catch up to the back of the pack, but if I was Paulie Orange, I'd maybe think about going round about now, just because the rest of the pack seems to be quite a long way behind. So here we go, 8 laps remaining when the Haas crosses the finish line. Paulie Orange in the lead of this race. Alan is in second and has got a much better run out of the final corner here. Can he just get in that slipstream? It doesn't look as though he's maybe got the straight line speed to get this manoeuvre done. He is going to think about going for it though. Down towards turn 2, the 2 Haas cars are going side by side, and Alan just backs out there, decides to stay in second place. There's been no changes any further down the field. Ole on those wet tyres in 11th place. Still looks like he's got a bit of understeer at this moment in time, so I'm not sure this is going to work out. He could well have thrown away a potential chance at a podium here. You can see he's had a big moment there. This track is not wet enough. It might be raining pretty hard, but those intermediates are a very good tyre. They can cope with some heavy rain. The track is just not wet enough, as Energetic 6 and Jonathan Cox both get penalties. Droftas is down the inside of Andenge, who's going to try and go all the way back around the outside of him to hold on to that position. You can't go side by side through turn 8. We learned that earlier on, and dropped us now into 4th position. I think, though, Andenge went a bit too much over the curve at turn 8 there. He's earned himself a penalty, doing the same thing through turn 10, and Dropdas is going to have the momentum here to get that 3rd place, so he's back on the podium. Paulie Orange has now managed to pull away that gap ever so slightly, and just look at how much Ole has dropped down the field. Big mistake from the Ferrari driver, unless the track gets ready now for wet tyres, as Jonathan Cox has worked his way up a couple of places. He is now, well, he was up to 7th, he's now up into 6th place, getting ahead of Energetic 6. He'll feel every move he makes could be crucial at the end of the season, because his championship lead, as I said, it was nearly 50 points not so long ago. It is going to shrink dramatically at the rate this race is going. The end of lap 20 then, 7 laps remaining. Paulie Orange is on a 1.2 second lead at this moment in time. That would not be enough to stop Alan, his teammate, taking his first race of the season, and therefore jumping himself back up into 2nd in the championship as Ole picks up a penalty. He's back into the pits. It was worth a gamble, but he's retired from the race, and you've got to think that Jeff is fairly reliable as a weather forecaster. We may moan at him a lot of things, but he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the weather, and unless he's telling you it's ready for wet tyres, it's probably not worth the gamble to go for those wet tyres. So we are now down to 11 runners in this race. Drofdas is pulling away from Andenge. He's catching up to Alan. I think catching up to Paulie Orange is just going to be a bridge too far, though, for the McLaren driver. Still a long way to go, though. Track conditions could deteriorate, tyres could wear, we could see more and more penalties. It might stop drying, it might dry out a slight bit towards the end. Who knows? Who knows what is going to happen in the remainder of this race? Looking at the battle, though, for 8th position at the moment. Fatality 6 tenths ahead of KRC. Farhad just behind in the Mercedes as he looks to pick up a few points. He's only had 6 so far this season. Could easily, if he gets ahead of KRC, could easily get himself into double figures for the season. Looking at fatalities, penalties, and Energetic 6 actually, with the penalties as well. Jonathan Cox, our championship leader, is trying to catch up to Noble then, up ahead, and looks to be doing so. Maybe it's too early to write off this AlphaTauri driver, our championship leader, from getting himself onto the podium. It'll be a bit of a tall order. Imagine he's got to get ahead of, really imagine he's got to hope that Drofdas and Andenge get ahead of Aitland, and then he's got to get ahead of all 3 of them. So just have to wait and see how this race goes for him. With 6 laps remaining, he's using his ERS. He can't use any DRS, of course, in the wet conditions. I don't think it is raining as heavy as it was at one bit under the safety car, but Noble is far enough ahead to just hold on to that position. Does so pick himself up another penalty, so he's clearly having to push hard as the other Red Bulls made a very slight mistake. KRC's left the door open through the inside at turn 3, and Farhad will gratefully receive that 9th position. KRC still hanging on, though, on the inside. Can he go late enough on the brakes? Is there going to be any contact? Somehow there isn't. Fantastic driving, and Farhad gets himself back, well, up into 9th position. Fatality his next target, though he doesn't need to pass him on track due to the penalty situation. Looking out the back of Noble, then he's still got Jonathan Cox all over the back of him. Energetic 6 not too far behind either, and Noble just a bit wide for 8 and 9. That meant he had to take a suboptimal line into turn 10. Is the AlphaTauri close enough to go for a move? He's got a bit more ERS at this point in the race, but probably not enough to really make a massive difference. Maybe, though, maybe he is going to be close enough into turn 13. I think in the dry, he might have sent that move. In the wet, though, this circuit a completely different beast, and even trickier than it is before to keep it between the white lines. So do not be surprised if we see a few more drivers picking up penalties. As it stands, though, Jonathan Cox would finish ahead of Noble, who has 12 seconds of penalties. Jonathan Cox and Energetic 6 currently on 6 seconds. Drofdas, of course, with that 5-second penalty, and Denge also on 6 seconds. So got to say, Haas driver 1-2 at this moment in time, in whatever order, is looking like a pretty solid bet. There's 1.5 seconds between them with 5 laps to go, which means it's 1.5 seconds in the favour of Alam with 5 laps to go, as he looks to get his, again, first victory of the season. 7 podiums so far, yet to get that win. Drofdas, though, in 3rd place. You feel like he'd want to get a victory out on track. These top 3 are pulling away now from Andenge, who's just sort of in a race of his own, currently in 4th place as Jonathan Cox gets the move done. Down the inside he goes into turn 5. He just thinks of places to get the overtake done that you wouldn't really consider. Moved on into turn 4, sorry, so must have been alongside, I imagine, through turn 3. He's into 5th position. Can he close up to Andenge at all? He needs to close up and pull out a gap to finish ahead, but he does look to be held up by Noble, so now that he's in free air, we'll get to see what he can do in that Alpha Tauri at this moment in time. Go on board with our race leader, 4.5 laps remaining. Didn't have the best of starts, let's not forget, him and Droftas won the front row as Immortal picks up another penalty. Droftas got a drive-through penalty on the first lap. Paulie Orange just got an absolute load of wheel spin, and that allowed Aylan to get ahead really before we'd even got towards turn 1. Though Orange did seem to have the pace, but that safety car has absolutely killed his gap. Might just ruin his chances of getting this race victory, but he would still close. He would drop down to 3rd in the championship. But if the race finished as they are in their positions at the moment, he would be able to close that gap to 17 points to no, sorry, he'd close the gap to 24 points, I should say, to Jonathan Cox. Aylan would close in to within 20 points. So, still very wide open, this championship, going into the Christmas break. We've got a 3-week break before the Japanese Grand Prix. And then it'll be 5 races in a row. Japan, USA, Mexico, Abu Dhabi, and double points bonanza in Brazil to end the first ever season of late night racing. Where we're still none the wiser who's going to take the victory in this race. Never mind who's going to end up taking the victory in the championship. Noble does seem to have been struggling, however, and it does look as though he can't keep up with Jonathan Cox. And Energetic 6 just sort of staying back at around a second at this moment in time. He'll be wanting to get his way ahead if possible. Fatality. Looks as though Farhad hasn't been able to close into him. Chaos Eve not looking as though he's got the pace to then put Farhad back under pressure, and likewise with Immortal and the Red Bull. So it is all spreading out at the moment. They're all sort of close to another car, but not close enough that you are going to see lots of battling. So hopefully we do get some drivers closing up together. Otherwise it could all get very very difficult and awkward at the end of this race, and it might get a bit quiet here before we see what drivers are going to be able to get the overtakes done. So Energetic 6 in that 7th position at the moment, trying to close up to Noble. Jonathan Cox not really closing up to Andenge at the moment, so he looks fairly safe though for a 5th position. He's got the pace to open up the gap to those behind, just hasn't got the pace though to close up to Andenge. 3 laps remaining. Paulie Orange still in the lead, still not far enough ahead of this driver Aylan, who is still holding off from Droftas. It looks as though, I would not be surprised, he will see in the post-race interviews, I would not be surprised if Aylan's gone for a bit more of a wet setup, because he does look to have more pace in these wet conditions than he had in the dry. He was dropping a long way back from Paulie Orange early on in the race. We obviously didn't really get to see his pace relative to Droftas in the dry without a massive tyre difference because of the safety car bought out by CRX Mars as Crash. God's retiring in the pit lane. He had that incident early on at Vanderlei. No, it was God's crash, sorry. Mars retired in the pit lane at Vanderlei. Had it bought out the safety car with the second crash, and then Ole retired in the pit lane after taking the gamble for the wet tyres. There's been so much going on in this race. I'm not quite sure what has happened, but what I do know is with 2.5 laps to go, it looks like we're getting a Haas 1-2. Looks like something pretty dramatic is going to happen for that not to happen. Noble is picking up penalties left, right and centre. He's on 18 seconds of penalties at the moment. He's not even going to score a point. At the rate things stand, he's got to hope that Immortal picks up a few, or he can pick up the pace, because he's really struggling with the track limits at this moment in time, so needs to tidy that up ever so slightly, or he is going to be in big trouble. He's still got Energetic 6 around a second behind him, but if Energetic knows about the penalty situation, which he will do now, because of course the new driver HUD also tells them, who knows, like, why would he go for the move? Why would he take a risk in these conditions? Does definitely look to be getting much worse now out on track. He's not wet enough still for the, well, even if it is wet enough for the wet tyres with 2 laps to go, it'd be a bit of a silly move to go for them, because I can't see you gaining enough. You'll have a lot more stability. You'd have to gain around 10 seconds a lap on these intermediate runners, so I'm not sure that's going to work out. As Energetic 6 Don't know whether he looks as though he did get a slightly better exit there from Noble, but he is just too far behind. And unfortunately for Orange, his teammate isn't far enough behind to really start dropping back. He's kept the gap constant at about 1.5 seconds as Farhad gets his way ahead of Fatality, bombs across the turn 2 runoff area in doing so that allows Fatality to get the position back, and it now all of a sudden allows KRC to close up ever so slightly. KRC maybe not out of this battle for 8th, 9th and 10th all of a sudden. He was dropping back, but that incident with Fatality and Farhad, when we came to them, they both looked as though they were missing turn 2. DBM was completely over the chicane at that moment. Well, how is turn 2 not a chicane? It's a right-hander and then a left-hander, but it's counted as only one corner. It's one of the worst corners in Formula 1 as well, just because of the runoff area and the shape of it always seems to cause a few awkward problems. But that's the end of round 1 of the Russian rant. And Paulie Orange has picked up the pace all of a sudden. He's got that gap up to nearly 2 seconds as we are about to come round the final couple of corners for the penultimate time. Paulie Orange is now a net 1.2 off the back of Alan, who would secure a win. Droftas is doing enough to secure that 3rd position in the race at this moment in time. Another podium for the man who's won more races than everyone else. Just a shame for him, obviously, that he couldn't commit to the lead full time. Otherwise, he might have had a chance of taking this championship win. On the back, then, of Fatality is still Farhad. KRC's dropped a bit further back. Are we going to see a move from the Mercedes into turn 2 this time? He tried it the lap before. He doesn't need to try it. He's just doing it to keep the fans entertained at this moment in time. And he's not going to be anywhere near close enough to get down the inside into 2. Needs to think, though, can he get the exit right on the run through 3? It is so treacherous out there. These intermediates are getting more and more worn. Immortal there picking up another time penalty. And we really do look as though if we had another couple of laps, I think we'd have seen a few drivers come for wet tyres. And I'm not sure whether that was the lights or we had thunder and lightning around this circuit. Now, if only was still in the race on those wet tyres, now could have been the time to be on them, because it is absolutely bucketing it down around this circuit. The drivers will just be grateful to get to the end. I think no matter what position they end up finishing in. Energetic still all over the back of Noble, closer than he has been before, but with the penalties again, does not need to make the move, just needs to keep it nice and clean, and he will end up finishing in 6th position as things stand. Farhad won't be able to close up to Fatality, whereas at the lead of this race, Paulie Orange, he's pulled out the gap ever so slightly, but that safety car has really cost him. He had a big lead. He's going to be the first man across for checkered flag, but with that 3-second penalty and his teammate keeping it clean, it means Alan takes the victory, and Jonathan Cox has had a mistake. Jonathan Cox has broken his front wing on the final lap of the race for championship leader. Has had an absolute nightmare. Droftas finishes in 3rd place and Denge in 4th. I think we will still see Jonathan jump up to at least 6th position, I imagine. I'm not sure the penalties for Energetic 6. You can see there, Jonathan Cox does actually boost to 7th. Farhad moves up into 5th place. KRC 6th, Fatality 7th. Jonathan Cox can only finish in 8th position. Disaster on the final lap for the championship leader. He was on his own, and I imagine he's just had a spin, and that has cost him. Energetic 6 there, getting the driver of the day. Alan, though, kept it clean at the front of the race, and finally, he said before, he was always the bridesmaid in this championship. Now he's the bride. He is the race winner. Absolutely delight for him, and he closes up to take 2nd in the championship, just ahead of his teammate Paulie Orange, who took the win out on track. And Droftas, if it wasn't for that drive-through penalty, you've got to wonder whether he would have had the pace in the end to take the victory. Here are the race results, then provisional before any stewards' inquiries. It's Alan taking the victory on that one-stop strategy. Paulie Orange to take 2nd position. Droftas is 3rd and Denge 4th. Dan DVN keeping it clean there to finish in 5th place. KRC finishes in 6th position. Fatality 7th. Charles Leclerc impersonator Jonathan Cox, judging by the charts, finishes in 8th position, and that is quite a big swing in the championship. He's now 14 points ahead of Alan all of a sudden, and only 18 points ahead of Paulie Orange. So things are really starting to heat up as we go into next year. Energetic 6th, 9th. Noble, despite all those penalties, picks up the final point. Immortal was the final finisher. Ole, Art Vanderlei, Mars, and Gods to retirement. From what was an absolutely fantastic race, and hopefully we will soon be able to get the opinion of our top 3 drivers. Alan, I'm sure he's going to be delighted that he's managed to get his first victory. Paulie Orange, probably be a bit completely different strategies. That race had absolutely everything. I did promise you before the Russian Grand Prix that we would see some excitement in that and we'd get a bit of unpredictability. Who would have expected Jonathan Cox to make a mistake pretty much completely, by the sounds of it, on his own on the final lap? What could have been a 5th position, only 8th place. Waldo's lost 4 points. Well, Waldo's lost 6 points, actually. Proved to be crucial at the end of the season. We are now starting to get a few of the... We're now starting to get the podium in, so congratulations to them 3, and we will start with a brand new race winner this season. You said you were always the bridesmaid. You finally managed to get that top step of the podium. How does it feel, Alan?
At last, I guess. To be fair, I crossed the line second, so I was still the bridesmaid in that sense. But obviously I got myself a groom in orange there who's kindly picked himself up a penalty then so I can win.
I'm not a quiet boy.
But yeah, you kept it nice and clean. How difficult was it after the first safety car? Because you decided to stay out on the soft tyres. Were you ever tempted to come in, even though you'd have had to do a double stack, were you tempted to come in and just put on a fresh set of softs?
Not really. I saw orange take a late dive and I decided to stay out because, you know, even though orange was 4th or 5th on the restart anyway, and then he came past me and disappeared, I would have then been put behind people that I was sort of around anyway. I don't think it would have changed much in the grand scheme. Apart from maybe the couple seconds of being held up, it would have really done me over, I think. So it's probably better to stay out.
And how warm were those soft tyres then when you came into the pits finally for the intermediates?
Mid-60s.
Oh, so not as bad as I thought then. So that's actually not too bad. And this win must give you a lot of confidence then for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I might actually do some practice now. We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, you are now, I believe, you are up to second in the championship, just 14 points off the lead. So it is really closing up into the final 5 races. But a great job today on taking the victory. And it was a 1-2 for the Haas team, who are absolutely dominating the Constructors' Championship. It was 1-2 across the line as well, Paulie Orange, but unfortunately for you, penalties just swapping it round.
Yeah, I was pushing so hard in the wet, I almost crashed a couple of times trying to get pull out those 3 seconds, but no, he deserves it. Good win. Good 1-2 for the team.
Just cast your eyes back to the start, because it's fair to say it looked like you got quite a lot of wheel spin getting off the line from second place.
I thought I had a really bad start until I realised that someone jumped the start. So I was
no comment.
I panicked a bit. I panicked a little. I didn't know what was going on. But yeah, it was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, good fun. Another podium for yourself. Again, you've also closed up the gap in the championship. I believe that is now your 8th podium of the season. So yourself and Alan are now tied with Jonathan Cox for the most podiums this season. Is there any because of how close it is in the championship, is there any chance of team orders for you guys yet, or are you going to wait and see if one of you falls off the pace before you discuss that?
Whoever's quickest on the day, the other one will let him through. If it gets to the point where no one can catch us and it's just me and Chris, then last race of the season we'll just say go for it. If we crash, we crash. If we don't, we don't. Who knows? It'll be fun.
Well, a great result from yourself again, getting yourself on the podium again and still closing up that championship gap. So that's our top 2 drivers, and we'll now got our pole sitter. He got his first pole position of the season, did Draftas, but it's fair to say within, well, technically before the start, you'd ruined your pole position.
Yeah. Pretty much, that was it. I keep my points. I do. I keep my pole position points, which is the first. But yeah, I was just a bit trigger happy on the start. So
still a great comeback from yourself there towards the end. And I imagine Paulie Orange was pretty gutted when he saw the safety cars. I imagine you were absolutely delighted when you saw that first one.
The first one, yes. Second one, not so much, because it didn't really. I was still, obviously, I was running P2, but then again, I just hit my wing, so yeah, I suppose it saved me the second one. But I did pick up a 5-second penalty somewhere, which wouldn't have made any difference at the end.
Did you not jump
no,
late?
because I finished just over 3 seconds behind you in the end, so
yeah,
fine.
admin, remove his penalty, it's fine.
But no, it was quite fun coming through after the first safety car. Had some good battles, lots of room, loads of respect. So, for once.
Yeah, you definitely did seem to have plenty of pace and be able to make some pretty decisive moves. How would you have? Did you think you had the pace? Judging by qualifying, you got half a second ahead in qualifying of the 2 Haas cars. Do you think you had the pace to beat them in the race, or was that a bit of a lap that surprised yourself with the gap you had?
No, it's about, me and Orange have been practicing, it's about right, but it doesn't matter. You need to be a second faster than someone to drop them from the DRS, so it would have all come down to safety cars, penalties, and it would have been a different race if I was at the front, maybe. Might have got more penalties, I don't know. But those 2 deserved it. They didn't get any false starts, and they didn't lose a wing, so I'll take P3.
Yeah, still a great comeback for yourself, and obviously a great win for Aylin and a good second place for Paulie Orange as well. And that is it then for Late Night Racing for 2020. We'll be back in 3 weeks' time, and it seems a bit crazy that 2020 is actually going to be over in 3 weeks' time. We'll have to wait and see what 2021 has got in store. What it definitely has got in store is an absolutely fantastic final 5 races here at LNR. The championship is really hotting up now for the driver's title, who will be able to take advantage of the next twist in the tail, round 18, the Japanese Grand Prix in 3 weeks' time. But for myself and all 3 of the drivers on the podium, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you next time around. Good night.